It's the 87th Precinct bonus episode. I thought I'd try introducing it by saying Hark in a really startling voice. Well, not a really startling voice.
Hark.
Hark.
I was moderately startled.
Or I could do it like...
We should be like, how? How?
That's Hark. Nah.
So, I've been Neil Buchanan. Just got in from practice with Marseille.
Was he on How?
I don't think he was.
Was on Art
he?
Attack.
Heart Attack.
No, he was on How.
Was he?
No, I think you're off piste there.
Right. There was a younger guy on How.
That was
Gaz
Top.
Top.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
Oh, what a terrible mistake.
Oh, I thought it was Neil Buchanan.
Oh, it's because you're getting old, Stevo. It's all merging into one. Your youth.
Crikey. Well, anyway, I've just got in from Marseille. Practice.
Marseille band practice. Anyway, it's a bonus episode, and so we do our usual thing of having a look at the copies of the books we've got. Before we get to Morgan's copy, I want to find out when Stevo's was published, the edition, because both Stevo and I have Penguin editions of Killer's Wedge.
With not that dissimilar fonts, really.
Yeah, they've retained the same typeface on the titles, but yours is very different to mine. So what year was yours, Stevo?
Mine just got a fairly...
Mine's 1978.
Mine's got an 87 Precinct badge emblem.
One would assume
dominating.
I'd assume they had like a whole series then, which would have just had that on the front.
Yeah.
Reprinted 79.
Oh, so yours a year after.
This
mine.
mentions the 70 reprint, the 78 reprint, and the 79.
Ah, there we go.
See, why would you change the cover in a year? One that's
odd.
not as good.
Well, I assume they were selling very well, so that must have been part of what does it. You know, if they're having to reprint it again within a year.
Yeah.
So
Why would you change the cover?
I don't know why they would change the cover.
Maybe just so they had a unifying kind of aspect to all of the series. So if you see that badge on the front, spot it on a distant stand and think, it's something else.
My copy was published in the year I was born. Your copy was published in the year you were born.
That's absolutely true.
So there's a little insight into our how old we are, because we're just
can work it out.
Disembodied voices at the moment, really, aren't we?
Can work it out from that.
Mine was published in 2007, which I regret was not the year I was born.
It's the Alison and Busby again.
Boring Alison and Busby.
What have they got on the front that bears no resemblance to the story this time?
It's some cracked glass with what looks like a bullet hole in it.
A smashed bullet hole in a window.
So that's got absolutely nothing to do with the story whatsoever.
Well done, Alison and Busby.
They really didn't try with those covers,
They
did they?
really didn't. Very, very shoddy.
Oh dear. I'm sure they're fine on all their current publications.
I don't want to besmirch the reputation of anyone currently working for Alison and Busby. I assume whoever was responsible for this has been long since dismissed.
I hope so. Yes. Anyway, so they're basically...
You're forgetting the other.
Oh, here we go. See if you can smell that, listeners.
Musty, fairly musty.
Yeah,
there's a bit of a spiciness to it.
Spiciness?
Yeah, it's like spicy after smell.
Nice.
I have no sense of smell, but even if I did, I suspect this would be very bland. As
you want to give it a go?
I chemically yours, I reckon. Does it 3 times and takes an average.
Yeah, not that much going on.
I'm afraid my
there.
book hasn't picked up much of an aroma in 10 years.
Slightly sweet, but only very slightly.
This is amazing podcasting.
Oh yeah.
Every time smelling books. Anyway, I've got something off the back of our last podcast to deal with, because...
A question?
Not a question, it's further research. I have sort of given you a little insight into this. So last time we looked at Lady Killer, and you, in your copy, Stevo, which I have in my hand, discovered the annotation inside it to Theo Ramos and a number of addresses and some information there. And so, out of curiosity, because one it mentioned about studios, I thought, well, maybe it's an artist, maybe it's someone who is known and I could find out some information about. Now, it's odd. I don't know, obviously, if that book, it's not a dedication, that...
Well, is this Theo Ramos's... How old was he when this came out?
Well, that edition... Well, I don't know. Well, I could work it out, because I could tell you. He was born in 1928.
1928.
So I did find stuff out.
So this is 64.
That's a good age to be reading that particular novel, I would say.
Yeah.
Right, well, so yeah, he could have been...
It's odd that it's written in the back of the book. Names and addresses, really. So is it actually just him saying, this is my book? Like, you write your name inside some of them. Some people do. Why would you write your address and your...
Why would you write your... Well...
So someone who had an appointment with him and couldn't find a bit of paper to write it down on?
It's a very strange thing.
This is a telephone number, isn't it?
Possibly, unless
798.
RA stands for Royal Academy.
Regent 7981
That will be
reads
phone
as a
number.
phone number. Royal Academy. What's a...
So maybe the Royal Academy was maybe the phone number for the Royal Academy. But I found stuff out about Theodore.
Who writes their own name and address?
Exactly. So it may
and work in a book. You just don't, do you?
So it may be that this is someone who knew Theo Ramos.
But why would you do that even?
Maybe it was just by the phone. Or I don't know. I mean, this is the reason this is interesting is not necessarily because of Theo Ramos himself, but it's the story of books. Second-hand books are brilliant because they don't just contain the story that is printed inside them. They contain a story in and of themselves as an object. Yeah. And when you find something with like an annotation in it like that, it just adds another layer to it. And the fact that I've been able to find stuff out as well is interesting because Theo Ramos is actually quite a well-known painter. He's got paintings that hanging in the National Gallery. He was mainly a portrait painter.
Oh, I have an exciting addition to this story.
Oh, excellent stuff. Well, he was the son-in-law of the artist Sir Henry Rushbury, and he's a painter, and then his sons are painters, his grandchildren are artists as well.
Oh, proper dynasty then.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely just, it's woven through their entire family on both sides.
Tremendous.
As well. What was really interesting was, when I was trying to find stuff out, his name crops up in books about the Sex Pistols because he was the tutor to Vivienne Westwood and Malcolm McLaren, and they really liked him. So there's stuff in here about them in my research about Theo's seminars were brilliantly witty and provocative. Having delivered one, he would suddenly look at his watch and declare, "I've got to get out of this place," and then dash from the building.
Clutching a copy of Ed McBain's.
Yeah, unfortunately, he didn't have that level of detail.
Right, I've just found his signature on the internet here, and I'll tell you what it is.
Does it look a bit like it?
Here.
That
is not a million miles away for somebody.
I mean, I think it's a fact that handwriting generally used to be a little bit more ornate. That people were taught better handwriting, so it generally looks a bit more ornate when you go back, say, 50 years or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're not graphologists. Is that the right word? Graphologists? They're the handwriting experts.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. Because I
think
that's probably correct.
But it's amazing that he's had this contact with the Sex Pistols, or being part of their story in some way along the way.
Yeah.
In fact, he testified at the Vivienne Westwood, Malcolm McLaren indecency trial as a character witness for them.
Oh, fantastic.
So by the sounds of it, he really enjoyed engaging with these young, sort of curious art students. But he was painting a painting of the Queen Mother when some Russian artists were invited to sit in on the session, which was really, really rare thing at the time. And that was the session where the Queen Mother just decided to sort of say, "Let's all start drinking vodka. We've got Russians here." And so he's painting this portrait, and these Russians and the Queen Mother are drinking vodka.
Fantastic.
So it's a fantastic little link between what we're looking at on our books and the things we love, and this artist whose work you can see for free in the National Gallery. He's painted the Queen Mother, he's painted the Queen, he has painted, much to Stevo's happiness, the cricketers Derek Randall, Mike Brearley and Bob Willis.
And my additional news on that is that at the test match on Thursday, I met Mike Brearley.
You met Mike Brearley, so you've met a man who's met Theo Ramos, who might have owned the second-hand, the copy of the book that you've got second-hand that we talked about last week.
I'm going to say that definitely was his copy. Having seen that signature, it seems likely to me. I think he probably just put all his details in there because maybe
Maybe he loved it too much and didn't want to lose it.
Well, yeah, and other patrons of the Royal Academy may have been a bit light-fingered with other people's paperbacks.
Yeah.
Just made sense to make sure your details were in there in case...
It wasn't a million miles away, that signature. No. It really wasn't. Oh, he also painted Alan Knott. He must have painted all the England side of like the late 70s.
Tremendous.
Well, there's a picture of Alan Knott stood in front of Alan Knott keeping wicket. He's in it twice.
Stevo's a big cricket fan and is very pleased to be looking at these portraits of some of the classic English cricketers.
Signature. The internet's so useful and yet very, very annoying.
All you want to do is find examples of Theo Ramos' handwriting, and what does it give you?
Yes, it's not giving me enough.
Well, we'll move on from Theo Ramos. It was lovely to find out that information, to know that he's such a skilled artist, and if you do look at some of the portraits, particularly the royal ones and the ones in the National Portrait Gallery, they're fantastic pieces of work. And so it's no surprise that it's easy to find some of the stuff about him on the internet. So
those R's are similar.
His R's are similar.
He overshoots from the top of the R, if you notice.
You're listening to Hark, the 87th Precinct podcast bonus episode.
You seen that?
Where we're comparing the letter R.
Whereas he starts over at right.
It seems conclusive to me.
But this is, I mean, like I say, this is like a story of second-hand books. This is what I find fascinating. It's knowing that it's been hopefully loved before and read and enjoyed before, and that you're getting a copy of something that's, new stuff's great. It's often nice to get like a new edition. So I bought the Martin Beck novels recently, all in one set, and it was lovely to have a big contiguous set of them. But there's only 10 of those.
Yes.
Whereas have this many books in the McBain series and have them all be different and individual to some extent.
Yeah. Obviously, if any of our listeners prefer to download things to their Kindle, then that's totally fine. If you'd rather buy a nice new edition, that's also completely fine. But we do recommend, if it's to your liking, why not just go to a charity shop or just go on eBay, go on Amazon, buy a nice second-hand copy. You never know what you're going to get. It's going to be really interesting.
They're so cheap as well, even on the internet.
It's so cheap.
You're going onto eBay and you're getting them for pennies.
That's it. Yeah, and each book's got a story to tell, so it's fascinating. Really.
And even better, support a local bookshop, an independent bookshop.
So,
well, for a start, you're not going to pick up many McBains in Waterstones anyway.
At any given time, there's only a handful in print, aren't
there?
Super exciting when you go in a charity shop or there's some just big stash, somebody's sold a load or somebody's donated some.
That's one of the sadnesses of having finished the collection. Now I still look for McBain books when I go in. It's like, why am I looking for them? I think that's part and parcel of this.
It is, yeah, it's good, and because there's so many to go at, it does take you a little while, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Yeah. It certainly does.
I suppose having finished McBain, you can start on Nero Wolfe now, and
yes, something like that.
John Dixon Carr.
It never ends.
No, and that's a good thing.
It definitely is a good thing.
Okay, so I think we're
unlike our podcasts, which eventually do.
well, they will end at one point. How old we'll be when it happens, I've no idea. How quick we can read these and talk about them. That's the thing. So what did we think of the TV episode then of Killer's Wedge, Lady in Waiting, as it's known?
It was very good, yeah.
It was very enjoyable. I think having Ed McBain write the teleplay did definitely help, although there were still some curious choices made. As you say, just arbitrary name changes just seem odd. I don't know why that would have happened.
That's a trait across all television, isn't it? Film, just inexplicable.
The other thing that really baffled me was a scene that was inserted with Steve and Teddy Carella having quite a heated argument, which just seemed totally incongruous.
Especially as it's only the second episode of that TV series.
In the book, where they have to ramp up the need for them to be happy, and so the book obviously has their Teddy's pregnancy, whereas why the TV programme wouldn't just use exactly the same.
Well, perhaps because it was early in the sequence of things. We were expecting expecting Gina Rowlands to have to stuff a pillow up her top for the rest of the
Yeah,
series.
so maybe they thought,
don't know.
we just need to swap that with an argument then, because
As it happened,
the next...
Gina Rowlands is only in a handful of episodes before she wasn't in any more. And Teddy's sort of just written out into the background.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Ah, right. Gina presumably vanishes off to
More
John Cassavetes.
More extravagant and arty things.
Yeah.
Oh, right, so they just write her out, do they?
Yeah, she just stops appearing eventually, because I think she
Oh.
just left the project.
Fair enough.
Which is a shame, because it is a brilliant TV series, and actually the
It's
acting
good,
in this one, in Lady in Waiting, is both over the top in certain respects, but it's also really intense and quite compelling for a cop show of that type at that time.
Definitely. I think I foolishly failed to note the name of the actress playing Virginia, who's not called. But she was very intense, but it was good. Seemed fairly convincingly unhinged.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, good.
It's always curious on the television having Roger Haviland still alive, and he's
That's
not
very true. Yeah,
died in a horrific plate.
Being pushed through a window.
Yeah, plate glass
indeed.
accident.
I will tell you the name of the actress because she did some fantastic close-up eye acting, looking between the various coppers. She's called Constance Ford, which is what you have to do when you live somewhere with loads of streams. Hey!
God. Constance.
Sorry. I'm very pleased with myself for saying that. And for some reason my internet has decided to not let me click on her on IMDb. So we're not getting any more information here at the moment.
Well,
There's the person who played Murchison is called Rusty Lane, and I'm sure you could probably make a similar joke about something like that. Right, here we go. Constance Ford was... I'm trying to see if there's anything we would have known her in more famous than this, necessarily. And I don't think so. She was in some Perry Mason, Dr. Kildare, those sorts of things, Rawhide. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
ooh,
Yeah, that's... So
Gosh.
she was clearly a working TV actress for the most part. Some of the Alfred
it's
Hitchcock
sort of,
presents, things like that.
No Columbo.
No, sadly no Columbo connection.
solid character actress.
Yes, definitely.
But yeah, excellent work in this episode, definitely.
Yeah, they sort of portray the character slightly differently than in the book. In the book, she's portrayed as very much like all life has been sucked out of her.
Yeah, she's whereas it's definitely very much alive in the TV series, but yeah.
So she's sort of making fun of Angelica Gomez by calling her Chiquita, which is a name we only know from the label stuck on bananas. Big banana importer.
Mm-hmm.
And she's sort of mocking her with that name to some extent, because I think it just means little kid or little girl, maybe, something like that.
Something like that, I think, as far as I'm aware, yeah.
It's a real intense performance. So it's quite good. Anyway. So, like I said in the main podcast, the next one is Till Death, and we're moving on to lots of different people and lots of different types of crimes. And so I don't know that we've got anything else to say. I think we've explored the books. We've explored the book's smells. We've looked at Theo Ramos.
Well, we've looked at another since. I think it's undeniable, isn't it?
We think
it's difficult to do upside down.
Yeah.
I think the Ramoses there are
and we've found, well, it's not incontrovertible proof, but it seems fairly solid.
compelling. It's
Yeah,
compelling.
It's a compelling
that's from the
argument.
National Portrait Gallery website, so we're not on the dark web trying to steal people's identity.
Although now you mention it.
Right, so we'll see you again for the next episode, and the next bonus episode, and the next book, which is Till Death, and I'm going to say goodbye.
Goodbye.